Praise the Lord. Yes, as you've seen, I'm back at Kaiser again. The missus had a mishap with her breathing this time. And I'm just coming back from the car, picking up something. She's been admitted, fortunately, not for hopefully a long period of time, but maybe 2-3 days, and then she'll be released. But I was thinking about something that I thought that I should be able to voice upon here. Now understand, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm just talking about the experiences and sharing it so that you'll be able to act accordingly. Not only when it's your turn, if it's ever is your turn, but also how to treat those whose turn it is. And I just want to talk about how to treat caregivers. And I know many of you've already thought about, the thinking about taking the medicines and taking making sure the food is good, making sure it's clean, and all that type of nice stuff that you want to make sure that the one you're being cared for is. You want to make sure that they're clean. You want to make sure that they, depending upon their amount of disability, that they're taken care of. But there's one thing I think that you have to really make sure that if you meet someone who is taking care of somebody, make sure that you give them encouragement. Because I've only been doing this for my dear sister, my wife, sister, for about 1.5 years. And the physical toil, though it may be a toil, is not really the biggest thing. It's the mental toil. That you know that if you don't do things right, she ends up here or worse. And even if you do things right, she can end up here or he can end up here. And then you have to fight the urge to blame yourself, because that tends to happen. That if something doesn't happen correctly, and it can be something that you didn't even know about, but you end up blaming yourself because he or she is your responsibility. This is on your watch. And so what happened? What didn't you do? And before anyone else says anything about it, we're saying things about ourselves first. What did we do? What did we miss? What did we do wrong? Maybe we missed something, or maybe we gave something we should not have given, even in our haste to make sure that we get things done. You have to listen to almost everything that doctors say. Can't let anything slip, because that one thing that you slip may be the one thing that either carries a person through or stops everything right there. So you have to make sure that you do everything. Even if it's taxing, you got to do it. You're in charge of the medications. You're in charge of making sure that the medications are given at the right time, at the right dosage. You cannot run out of medications, meaning that if you feel yourself even starting to run out, you go and get the order. And if you can't get the order because they say, well, you did it too soon, then you're on pins and needles waiting for the time that you can get the order through, and hopefully that the person doesn't miss a day or two, because maybe a few medications you can miss, but there are some things you can't. And there are plenty of examples of people who have missed 1 or 2 medications, and it may not even have been the reason why their loved ones went off. And what I mean by went off, I mean went off this earth. But because it's their responsibility, that person will still feel guilty. And so if you go somewhere, and even if a caretaker is there, you're always worrying about that person. So you're counting the hours, the minutes, the seconds that you get back. You won't really feel completely at ease until you're back. And again, I'm not saying this to complain. I'm saying this so that you can know what caregivers go through. And so when you know one that is a caregiver, even those that are paid to do it, I'll even say that too. Sometimes you're paid to be a caregiver, but all the responsibility then falls on you. And so therefore, you have to make sure that you do everything right. Because it's not even about the payment. It's about do you have a healthy, at least healthy as one can be, do you have a healthy customer, or do you have one that essentially is on one step from the door to the other side, if you get my drift? What else? You have to make sure that you keep yourself from people who mean well, but they will give you all types of what things that you should give and shouldn't give, and they have no clue as to what condition the person is in. But because their aunt or their cousin or their second cousin, once removed, happened to have something that seems similar, that they give that to you as well. Of course, you try to say, yeah, okay, that's good, I'll try it. And you know that you're not going to do anything because you don't want to put your loved one in danger. But at the same time, you're in a position whereas you are, as I said, everything falls on you. If you weren't the head of the household, you are now. If you were not the only finance person in the house, you are now the only finance person in the house. You got to make sure that whatever you do, the papers are right. I remember I had to go through having power of attorney, and that is not an easy thing to get, but you have to go through it. Otherwise, your partner's side ends up being a black hole, and essentially, it doesn't matter whether you may know or may not know. The government doesn't care. The creditors don't care. You better make sure that you got things right. Otherwise, they don't care. They just want their money. And they still want their money, but at least now you have a much more better idea of how to handle that. Let me see, anything else? Oh, also and I know this is something that essentially people, again, are doing it because they want to help, but they then start saying, well, so-and-so should help, so-and-so should help, so-and-so should help, so-and-so should help. And maybe they should, and maybe they shouldn't. But do you really want someone who's really not really thinking about the person that you're taking care of, but they're thinking of, why did they put me in this position? They know I can't do it. You know I'm falling to pieces up here. You don't want someone you want someone doing that. Well, but they'll learn. But while they're learning, you run the risk of them missing something very important. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. But they've been pressured to do that by people who, though they're well-meaning, they're putting the wrong person on the patient. They're putting the wrong person on the job. And you can't have somebody do that for the one that you love. They have to know that the person that is doing it not because they're getting money, not because they are, because they're owed something, because they love them and they want only the best for them. And so that person, even if they're tired, they're sleepy, and you do get tired and you do get sleepy because sometimes, remember, You caregiving is 24/7. You get someone else, they may only work 4 hours or 8 hours. You're 24/7. So in the middle of the night, something happens, you better figure out what's to take place, what's going to happen. With Sister Heyman and I, last night, I fed her, got her medications, got her insulin. She slept pretty well. But about 12:30, she got up choking. And then she started breathing very strangely. And I saw her in her eyes. Her eyes were panicky because she could not get any breath. And you know how scary that is for someone, but you can't lose your cool. You got, oh my goodness, you have to know what to do. So I called 911. I figured since I couldn't get her up, my back is still hurt. I still got to get my back done. But even then, I would have tried to do it, but she couldn't put any weight on her legs. So essentially, I couldn't carry her. So I had to call 911 and then be able to then listen to the doctors and so on. And plus also, if you're at the doctor and they tell you about, well, if you are in this position and do you really want to extend care? And they ask you that all the time. I'm used to it now. I'm used to it. So it doesn't bother me. But other people, they may, if you heard the first, second time, what do you mean not used to it? I mean, what do you mean that if this stuff happens? I don't want to think that far, but you have to think that far. And you have to consider it and then go accordingly. Now, for me, I want all that can be done to help my wife. With other people, maybe a little bit different. But essentially, you have to already have that figured out and thought of before getting in a situation where you're going to really go up an octave or 6 because you're thinking that the person that we don't care about how you feel. They're there to do a job. That is to work on your loved one. But I'm just giving you a few tips. I may give a few more tips along the way as to essentially how to deal with being a caregiver. But if you do see one, and there's caregivers is on your job, maybe he goes to your church, she goes to your church, maybe he or she, you just meet somewhere or your friends, be honest, hug them. Give them a high five, give them a pat on the back. They don't necessarily always need your money. Oh, that could be helpful too, but they don't always need your money. They just need your support. They know that they're not out there by themselves, that they're not alone, that there's someone pulling for them, encouraging them, even if they don't see you. Anyway, may God bless you and may He keep you. I better go back upstairs and see how my wife is doing. Speaking of that, she's been through kind of the ringer today, but she's getting better. But this is something that you have to do. And you do it why? The Lord did it for you. He did it for you. You couldn't do anything on your own, but Jesus did everything for you. So now you have to pay it forward, so to speak. Love you all, and may God bless you and keep you. Take care. Love you all. In Jesus' name.